Good morning, class. This is Mr. Schmidt. We're here October 8th talking about environmental science. What is a biome? So we spent a few days talking about specific biomes. I just wanted to come back and discuss what the specifics were. Okay, so the first one, what is a biome? Here we see a great picture of changing height, which is our altitude, and changing north to south, which is our latitude. All right, our goals for today is students will be able to explain how climate varies, and students will give specific examples of how latitude and altitude affect climate. So we first have a throwback slide here from a week or so ago where we look at all the different interactions here. So we have the lithosphere, which is land, and the hydrosphere, which is water, and the atmosphere, which is air, and all of those things interact in a place where things can live, creating what is known as the biosphere, which is what we're trying to recreate in our little plastic bottle experiment. Okay. And how those interact create different biomes. A biome is a type of environment that is defined by the types of organisms that live there. And we've already talked about a number of these different biomes that exist. The first thing we look at when we're looking at organisms that live there is the plant life or the vegetation, which is the plant life in the region. Animal life is also an important piece, but it's normally follows where the plants are to eat. So when we're talking about altitude, just like in that first picture, we're looking at how far north or how far south something is, and it's north-south distance from the equator, and it's measured in the degrees. The other piece we're looking at is the altitude, the height of an object above sea level. So this is a great picture showing both the height and the amount of oxygen present. This makes it increasingly difficult for animals to live, especially larger animals like humans. When we get up to these extreme heights, we suffer oxygen sickness or altitude sickness from a lack of oxygen. So it greatly influences the animals that can be present in this environment. So when we are talking about human conditions, one of the first things we look at is what's known as a temperate climate. Temperate climates are environments with moderate rainfall spread across the year or portion of the year with sporadic drought. It also has mild to warm summers and cool to cold winters. So if we kind of look at the West Coast here, where Oregon and Washington would be, we see a mild temperate climate where maybe there's a little drought in July and August, um, but we know by the end of October we'll be seeing rain, and we'll be seeing rain with a pretty steady um, rainfall throughout the rest of the year, and just only that short sporadic drought every summer. Okay, compare that to Africa or Australia, where there's going to be huge patches of desert where they'd have severe long-term droughts. Okay, so these temperate climates, if you look at these green zones on all continents, they also represent where the greatest human density is, because the humans have been able to follow those paths and um, farm those areas and have the greatest amount of food present, which also gave rise to the first human colonies. All right, so those were the basics of a biome, which will set us up for our first assignment here today. Um, Before we go on to the first assignment, I just did a quick review of our ongoing lab. So in our bottle biosphere, our eco columns, um, we are not going to add any more water for the next 3 weeks. This is a closed system where no more material comes in or out. Okay. What we can do is take pictures of it and try to measure it. So in this top picture, you see I took the cap off of the desert biome and I took a picture from the top down. Okay, I did that because there's a lot of water on the sides attached to the plastic and condensation had formed. Okay. And then on the second layer, the grasslands, there's a number of plants of growing. So I zoomed in on one spot. Luckily, the condensations formed more on one side of my bottle than the other, which made it easier to measure or to take a picture. Okay. And then finally, on the bottom, you see my freshwater environment. A few pointers there. The less you move around your bottle, the better. Okay. Especially for the water, the freshwater layer. Um, and then if you might have to separate the bottles to try to get your picture, but don't worry too much about the picture. The important part is that can you see just enough to get some measurements in? And if you can get your measurements twice a week, then that's all you need. Okay. So we have our Monday measurement that should already have been done and turned in. And now our Thursday measurement that you need to take today. You're not going to turn in anything else for the next 3 weeks. You're just going to keep taking your pictures and your measurements. And then at the end of it, you're going to turn in your entire journal. Okay. So that was where we were with our bottle biomes. But we also had an assignment today. Okay. So if we look at what is a biome on our assignments, we see we have some different choices and it has expired. Um, You could use this, but what's a much better way is to click on this button, and then that's going to pop up with the cami, and there's going to be one important little difference, um, which is this submit button. This will automatically submit to your Canvas page. Okay. If you didn't load it up from this button, then what you're going to have to do, if you use this one, you're going to have to email that to me because I don't think there's a second way to turn it in. Okay. So this should talk about the exact same things we just said, our latitude, our altitude. Okay. Um, and it should ask questions along the lines of the pictures I just showed you. Okay. So at this point, I sat on the call for 20 minutes waiting for questions to come in. I did not get many questions. So hopefully you're able to look at this reading and answer the questions. As always, email me if you have any questions or comments. And if not, make sure these get done and you fill out another of your journal entries and save it. Okay. And like I said before, some people have been asking, do not add water. This is a closed environment. Once you've added the water the first time, it is done for the next 3 weeks. Okay. With that, have a good weekend, and I'll see you all next week.